And I'll give you kind of a rundown. Is it okay if I sit in?
Yeah.
So real quick, so my name is Nicole Sheehan. I'm a holistic vet. I've been practicing for 15 years. I'll tell you kind of my journey down holistic / nutrition. To me, they're the same thing, really. I had a dog. I graduated from vet school, Ohio State, 2004, and I had a dog who needed 2 knee surgeries at 11 months and 13 months. And at the time, as a vet student, I didn't really know how serious that was. At 11 months, to already have torn his ACLs. When I adopted him, he had this little tremor in his leg. He was 13 weeks old, and they wouldn't let me adopt him without neutering him. Right? So they neutered him at 13 weeks, and I was like, I'm a vet student, I'm totally gonna neuter him. And I worked in a shelter, like I get it, I'm all about spay neuter. I'll wait till he's a little older, and they wouldn't do it. And that's a whole nother topic, that early spay neuter is really detrimental to their ACLs and nutrition, those 2 things. And he had a double whammy. So when I was in vet school, I took him to the specialist there, and they all thought it was nutritional, but nobody had like a plan for him, at all. And so, what's that right? So, he gets 2 knee surgeries. I moved to North Carolina. I, start working as a vet, and at 18 months of age, he now is lame in the front. So now he has bilateral elbow dysplasia, 2 T pillows, and arthritis and awkward legs, and he's 18 months old. And I thought, all right, this is not good. So I was like, okay, what do? You're a vet. What do? You put him on Ritalin, right? And I thought, that sucks. Like, there's no way. He's 18 months old. That's not gonna help this dog, And my dog growing up, we put down at 6 years old for dysplasia back in the early 80s, when we didn't have a lot of options back then. And I was just like horrified, And I thought, well, if I don't feel good about that for my own dog, how in the world would I ever do that for my patients? I gotta learn some more stuff. So I'd only been out of school for like 6 months. And I was like, I am not happy with what they taught me in school, because nobody had an answer for him, and here he is 15 months later, and he's a disaster. And so I'll give you guys kind of an insight, if you don't already have it, into the pet food industry. I'm sure you have like a lot, but the science diets, the Royal Canons, and the Purinas of the world, they're brilliant in how they market. So they get right into the vet schools. They literally teach our classes, our nutrition classes are taught by them. They roll up trucks full of food, and we, the starving poor vet students, go running over to get our free food. So they give us all this free food for animals, and then what do? We graduate, and we see our puppies and kittens, and people ask, well, what kind of food do you feed? Because if the vet feeds it to their animal, it must be good enough, Oh, I probably feed XYZ, and that it's the most brilliant marketing strategy I've ever seen. So they really are so brilliant about it, but it wasn't working for me. And so I was like, I just gotta think like in terms of inflammation, how do I get rid of inflammation? And that's really how I started down the nutrition path of like, okay, I gotta figure out how to get inflammation out of my dog's body. And so I worked in a traditional practice, and they taught me a lot of really good medicine, so I can't knock it, but I was like, I gotta figure out something else. So I started doing better food. It still was not great. I still didn't really quite know what I was doing. But it was better, and it worked. And so I didn't have them on any medicine. Then I got really into glucosamine and, the supplements, and then it worked for a while, and like 9 months later, it wasn't enough. This dog was also insane, like would run a half marathon every day. So I ran him 6 miles every day, or he would drive me crazy. And then he would like wrestle everybody at the dog park for an hour, and then be like, your dog is gonna wear my dog out. My dog is wearing 6 miles and 100 degrees. And then he would still get a ball, like, come on, let's play, So this dog was insane, and he was on no pain medicine. And so all along the way, I just kind of upped my game. So when that was no longer enough, I learned acupuncture. When that was no longer enough, I got laser, chiropractic, herbs. I mean, you name it, I was gonna learn it. And he passed away about 3 years ago, but he taught me everything. So he was 12 and a half when he passed. He died of bloat, actually, interestingly enough. Which is kind of weird for my dog to do that, but he was 12 and a half. He was still running 2 miles a day with me on zero pain medicine and was living like a really fantastic life. And so he kind of taught me everything I knew about nutrition. So that's really how I started on that path. And then, you know, some side stories about kind of what I do. So then when I learned acupuncture, 2 stories, like within the first couple of weeks of me coming back and doing acupuncture training, I had a paralyzed dog who, you know, couldn't feel his bladder, couldn't pee, couldn't poop, couldn't walk, couldn't feel his feet. Was supposed to go get surgery, right? $4 million of surgery, and no guarantee his dog's gonna walk again. And he was being seen, it was a basset hound, by one of my colleagues, and they would make fun of me. They're like, "Oh, he needs acupuncture." And I was like, "No, he does." And so I said, "Fine, you do prednisone, and you do all what you're gonna do, and if it doesn't work, I'll give you 24 hours. If it doesn't work, let me out. You know, and get it okay with the owner. The owner didn't have enough money to pay for surgery, because who has $4,000 sitting in your bank, right? And even if you do, that's probably not what you should be spending it on." So she said, okay, the owner said, okay. So the dog stayed overnight with us because it couldn't pee or poop, and they didn't feel comfortable in that dog. So 24 hours later, couldn't walk, couldn't pee or poop, sat up. Now, I am like 2 weeks into acupuncture, so I'm not even really that good at it. This was in 2009, so 10 years ago. And, you know, I treat this dog with acupuncture, and my tech takes it from the exam table, puts it on the floor to clean its cage and get it back in there, and it goes walking off. And we were like, oh my God, did that just happen? Like, did I just do that? You know, and so, just like that, from that moment on, I thought, oh my gosh, like the things that are, there has to be other things out there, there has to be. And so, I had another one right after, like within a few weeks. I don't know if you guys know anything about, you probably do, because nutrition's huge for megacolon, for cats that get like chronically constipated, and yeah, it's awful. So you've got to clean out their colons. I mean, it's disgusting, it's painful, it's like 10 enemas later, it's all this terrible stuff on a cat, if you can imagine. And this lady comes in, and I was the last person on emergency that night, so I was the last person to be seen. And I was like, listen, I'm gonna give your cat an enema, some fluids, shove some mineral oil down, right, stick it in the bag with fluids and do all this stuff. And then tomorrow it's gonna get like as many enemas as it needs. We might have to sedate it and clean it out, like the whole thing. But I just learned acupuncture. Are you okay if I try it? She's like, absolutely. So my tech and I, we did kind of a mix. So I gave fluids, gave a little mineral oil, made things slippery. Come here, I know you're stressed. Thank you, darling. And so I did acupuncture, and my tech's sitting there, and I'm doing all the notes and everything. And she puts the cat in a cage for the night, and the owner's already left and gone home, and goes in his kennel and picks out this much after one acupuncture treatment. We were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, you know? So I go call her. So I come pick her up. She's good to go. And now megacolon, I used to hate megacolon cats because they'd come in and I'd be like, oh, this is terrible. It's terrible for me, it's terrible for the owner, it's terrible for the cat. They will die of this eventually. Megacolon, no problem. They're all fine. Like they reverse, they're fine. And so, you know, those two things like really early on just completely shifted my brain. And I was like, I will never believe anymore what they tell you, that you can't fix it. So I've now, you know, almost 15 years later, really come to realize that like everything is fixable. I might not know. I know a lot of stuff, how to fix a lot of things that don't seem fixable, but there's still stuff I don't know, but I'm gonna keep working and working and working until I figure out how to fix these things, because I believe there's a cure for everything. And so I have this little office in Davidson. Well, it's not a little office anymore. We've grown quite a bit, and it's just because of what we do, it's just like has grown insanely, and we've got people come off from all over. So I get people come 4 or 6 hours. I think 6 hours is as long as people drive to get to me. So the majority of my day is spent doing second opinions, or what we call sixth opinions. They've seen everybody, and there's something in their heart that just tells them there has to be something. Like, and I think that's what's amazing.
There's a lot of information being put forward, but I feel like there's a lot of garbage information being put forward.
Yeah, so it's really like one big thing has been put forward by every news media in the world. But if you think about it, if I'm selling XYZ, and a story comes out about that says that XYZ might be better, my product, than someone else's, what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure every news or media outlet on the planet has access to that information. So it's really just a small amount of information, really tiny amount of information, but some really powerful people will really easily, and I could have done it. If it was on my side, I could have done the same thing. It's just leaked it to a bunch of outlets, and so that's really what happened. But the bottom line is, in my mind, I like, everyone wants to make everything so complicated. I don't make everything simple. So simply said, over 5 years, 500 dogs had this problem, okay? And so in the whole scheme of things, it's 0.000077% of the population had this condition that may or may not be linked to grain free. So I'll tell you what happened. And I wondered, I'd love to actually have your feedback, because I'm in the veterinary circle. I know what happened in the veterinary circle. So I had that information, and I wonder how that matches up with like the information that was really outside of our circle. But one person noticed that some of the animals they were diagnosing with that condition, the DCM. So DCM, dilated cardiomyopathy, what it means is your heart muscle, right, squeezes to pump blood throughout your body. DCM, your heart muscle gets lazy, it starts doing this. So your blood can't get anywhere. Your blood can't get anywhere, it's not good, right? So, and it can happen really quickly, huge genetic component to it. And I've seen it linked to tick illness. I've actually seen it linked to tick bacteria. And so, so somebody noticed that some of these dogs were eating grain-free food and went, that's it, it's the grain-free food that's doing this. And they got a little ahead of themselves. So this detox stuff that I'm talking about is gonna not make a lot of people in my community very happy. But I've been doing it for 5 years, and I'm ready to start talking about it. But I have a lot of data. So I've been collecting a lot of data on these detoxes before I open my mouth. In my opinion, this information came out and was just like, oh, this must be it. There was not a lot of data collected. There was not a lot of research done. It was like, blah. And then it was like, and that's what happened. So then it's this cleanup stuff of like, okay, what is the data now? Well, the information's already out there, but now they're doing the data, So it's like, you gotta have your data first, right? Before you go saying big, huge things like that. But it got the veterinary community really excited, right? Because everybody wants to be right. I want to be right. Everyone wants to be right, Everyone wants to be a hero. And what happened was, I was getting a lot of like feedback from my community of like, see, I told you guys these boutique diets are terrible and they don't know what they're doing, and it was confirmation to the veterinary community that, see, we should all be sticking with what we know, which is the big three. So that's what happened. So it started this debate of like, well, it's not even a debate, because most of them have never looked outside of these three. That's all they've ever known. They didn't have a Tucker who they were desperate to fix, They didn't try anything. So I guess like for me, I'm coming from both sides. I've done that, and I've done this, which every food downstairs, I'm a huge fan of. Like, those were on my approved list, So, so I just feel like I've done both, and I know the difference. And so what we've told our clients is, one, they still haven't really put the data out. So I'll go back. So what happened was, so I started saying stuff, because I've been getting real mouthy lately. Because I've done this for so long now, I'm just like sick of it. You know, it's just time to just really start talking about the truth of what's going on out there. And so I said to my classmates, I said, now wait a minute guys, so they're saying there's a taurine deficiency. You need taurine for your heart muscle. And I'm like, there's no taurine in grain. Oh, did anyone think about this? So everything I do in medicine, which is so funny, I do all this like insane stuff. I Google half of it, and then I reverse engineer it. I'm like, how do I get to the bottom of this, you know? So it's all common sense stuff, you know? It's all stuff that you feel in your heart. And so I was like, wait, there's no taurine in grain, so what y'all talking about, you know? I go, taurine's in meat. It is in meat. So these are diets, if they are lacking taurine, it's because they pulled the meat out of it, which we all know is what you're eating, you know? So, you know, I'm a holistic vet, like I do surgery, we do orthopedic surgery, I do ultrasounds, echocardiograms, so I actually do the thing where you ultrasound the hearts. I got trained to do it by the guys that taught me how to be a vet. They didn't teach me anything about holistic, but they did teach me like really good medicine. So I just screen them. Anybody's worried, I'm like, come in, I'll screen them. And I haven't seen any. So I do see DCM sometimes in my practice. I haven't seen any rise of them at all in my patients. And so, you know, stay tuned. But I think the quote from the FDA was, basically, they're still like, it's not, nobody knows. So they're going to still look at it, but it's such a small proportion. Now, if we look at the proportion of things, from my perspective as a vet, what we are seeing every day, itis. You know, you have dermatitis, you have hepatitis, you have neuritis, arthritis, you know, inflammation of everything, right? And so you have to get the body out of an inflammatory state, and that's where food comes in. It's like, and people come to me sometimes, they want the fancy stuff, you know, magic, acupuncture, and I'm like, well, first let's work on what you're putting in your animal, and then let's just see what happens, you know? If somebody comes in, they have 6 problems, their animal has 6 conditions, 3 conditions, I'm like, food first, change food, anti-inflammatory diet. We do Chinese medicine, so I'll talk to you about some cool Chinese medicine things that are really like make a huge difference and that you can even help people with in the store. And then come back and see me in a month and see what they got, because sometimes all of that really goes away, you know, with that. So, and you know, cancer, obviously. You know, what is everyone most afraid of cancer? It is a reality. It's like 1 in 2 animals gets cancer now. It's crazy. So when I left my standard practice after 7 years, and I was doing a bunch of alternative stuff, and I felt like I couldn't do that in a standard practice anymore because they were asking me to vaccinate every year and stuff I wasn't comfortable with, but I just had to leave. I went to a holistic practice to work. She became my mentor. And I had been there for a couple months. I was like, God, do you guys see any lymphoma patients? And they're like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I used to see like 1 a week in practice. Lymphoma, it's terrible. You know, I mean, cancer. And right away, within a few months, I noticed this holistic practice saw so much less cancer. They saw so much less aggression. We muzzled them so much less. Like, they were just happier, you know? And I thought, there's gotta be, you know, something to this. And so, now we've kind of upped our game even from that place, and then I left that place after a year and a half, and I set up my office 6 years ago. And so for 6 years we've been just like, you know, doing all this nutrition stuff, and we see almost no cancer in our office. All the cancer comes from outside our office for second opinions, so that's a huge part of our second opinion. I was told my animal has cancer, they're going to die in 3 months. Or they want this crazy surgery, or I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with chemo, or whatever it is. We do some chemo in our office. We will do whatever it takes to get a good result. So sometimes there's a time and a place for that kind of stuff. And I'll do whatever gets me a good result. So it's not like I'm just trying to stay away from drugs. I just think like a lot of times the natural stuff is actually superior to it. But what's interesting is because of the way we feed our patients and help people feed their patients, we see almost no cancer. It's insane, you know? And so when you're looking at DCM, just 0.0000077% of the population, or you're looking at 50% of the population, what are we working on here? You know, I mean, it's like, if you're playing the odds, these grain-free foods, these higher end, you can call them boutique diets or whatever, that is what's making a difference in the itises, dermatitis, arthritis, cancer, you know, all those things. So what y'all are doing here is so impactful, you know, to really make a difference in their health. Like you probably know it because I'm sure the clients come in and like tell you, but you can just not believe like how much of a difference it really makes. And so that really goes for food. So people, what's super interesting, this is Chinese medicine. I'm gonna give you a couple of Chinese medicine hints, and I can actually give you some handouts which are super interesting. They could just really help people. So some of us are cold-natured, right, Tyson? You know. Some of us are hot-natured, right? So we all have different constitutions, and we need different things. We crave different things based on that. And so living in the South in a hot climate, we get a lot of dogs that are hot-natured. So you don't get the manual. So as they get older, they have this thing called yin deficiency, okay, which is you don't cool. Okay, you have an inability to cool. So the easiest way to put perspective on that is think about menopause. You haven't been through it, you know someone who has. It's an internal heat. It doesn't matter if the fans are running, doesn't matter if the air conditioning is set on 62 degrees. It is fire inside your body. And these animals, as they get older, have it. They need their heat dropped. And so you can manipulate the body with foods. So certain foods cool the body, certain foods warm the body. So people also, again, come for acupuncture. And I was telling them, acupuncture, I use as a jump starter. I'll jump start you in the right direction, but food is so much more powerful. And one of the reasons it's more powerful is I'm going to see you once a month for acupuncture. You're going to feed your dog 60 times in that same amount of time, right? So, but what happens in China is you don't get acupuncture when you're sick. You actually go to the market and you pick up food. So they use food therapy first. Food first. Acupuncture's if you're stuck, then you go get acupuncture. But it's really about food. And so for me, pets are extremely sensitive to proteins. So the protein is going to be the thing that shifts your temperature of your body. So we know this instinctually, and this is what I always think. We know this instinctually, but we have the freedom as human beings to pick out our meals. And so dogs don't, right? They have to eat what's in the bowl. And so it's up to us to choose for them. And so what happens is if you are at the beach all day and you are hot, right, sweaty, and someone wants to give you a beef roast, you're like, whoa, oh my God, give me some watermelon or something, right? Give me a salad or fish or lemonade, you know, all those things actually cool our bodies down. We just don't think about it. You know, it's all the things we do, but we just don't really think about. And so the same thing, you've been skiing and it's freezing cold all day, you don't want watermelon and salad, you want, you know, a roast, potatoes, you know, that kind of stuff. That actually warms our body. And so animals are the same. The problem is we are taught as veterinarians to teach all of you to pick a food and never stray from it, right? Because your dog's tummy might get upset. Yes. And get one for Tyson, please. And so what ends up happening is they eat the same food year-round, right? So this is one of the reasons they tell us to eat seasonal food ourselves. Things that grow in the winter warm your body naturally. God is brilliant in that way. Things that grow in the summer cool the body off. So you can think of it really simply like that. So certain proteins cool the body, certain proteins warm the body. So in our office, we end up cooling a lot of dogs down because we live in a hot climate. And also, if you think about it, the way that we process food creates heat, right? So any kibble, even if it's a good quality kibble, is still heated at 600-700 degrees. That food carries the energy of heat. It's a crazy thing, but it's true. And so that food has so much heat processed into it that even though it's cooled off, it creates internal heat. Okay? So right away, your less processed foods will cool your body off. So canned is not cooked nearly as hot, especially your refrigerated foods, your frozen raw foods. All of those are naturally going to cool your body off. So just be thinking of that. The weight, look at what temperature that food was cooked, and that's going to naturally cool the body off. The proteins that we're looking for to cool the body would be fish, right? Cool water. Rabbit is one of the coolest proteins we have, actually. Turkey over chicken. Chicken's warm for whatever reason. Turkey's cool. I use a lot of pork. I don't know how you feel about pork. I use a lot of pork. In what I do, it's really good for skin. It cools the body off and it brings blood vessels into the skin. And we'll talk about that too. So a lot of pork, and it's a cool protein. And then beef's kind of in the middle. Venison's kind of in the middle. The ones I never do, unless I have a really old animal, is lamb. So lamb is just really, it just burns them right up. And chicken would be too. Those are the two hottest proteins.
Yeah. So do you think venison is more neutral?
Yeah, it's hot. Maybe a little bit warming.
I know it's saying that, yeah, I knew that.
And a lot of the venison we use is less processed.
Okay.
Or it's mixed with something. If you did a straight venison kibble, that was the only protein in it, it would be warming.
Okay.
But it's not hot. Lamb is just like, it's hot.
Okay.
Chicken is real hot.
Okay.
So those two I just try to avoid in hot temperature dogs. So hot spots, ear infections, skin infection. People that are coming from so far away, super motivated people. They will literally do anything I ask them to do. They'll say, give me the best food. I want the best food. I don't care what it is, I'll get it. Money's no object, I'll get it. And I'm like, there is no such thing. That is why you have a store full of all kinds of options. There is no best food. What we do in our office is we have a list of approved foods, our favorites, that we love people to start with. But the best food is the food that your animal does the best on, right? It's what you're getting the most benefit from. And so, she's not your friend. She's not the boss of this room. And so that's really what you want to do. Everything. This also goes back to another point about the DCM thing, the brain-free thing. I believe in rotation of things, right? Because every brand out there has had some kind of recall. So when you pick one thing and you stick with it all the time and that food doesn't work, or has something go wrong with it, you rely upon that. If your pet eats a lot of things, then chances are if something goes wrong with anything, because when you're relying on someone else for your food supply, something can go wrong, you're not as, they haven't ingested as much of it, if that makes any sense. So when we're relying on other companies to provide nutrition, I think it makes sense. I switch up brands, I switch up proteins, I listen to the animals. People will come in and they'll say, my dog just won't eat. And I'm like, well, what they're trying to tell you. Because I'm just sort of, y'all see it all the time. This is how medicine should be.
Where are you located?
I'm outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
So we've got a practice in Davidson, it's just north of Charlotte, Lake Martin area. So I just happen to be on vacation, and I've got a couple clients out this way. And made friends with Unleashed. And I just, think that what they're doing here is really impactful. And there's this war going on between the boutique foods and boutique, pet shops and the vet foods, and I've done them both, and I definitely feel very strongly that what is being sent out the door here is more nutritious. So I'll tell you a couple other interesting things that kind of blow people's minds. Kidney disease. We feed them raw food and herbs, and we reverse their kidney disease instead of all these low. Well, you ever look at those diets? And your owls start getting hives. Like, we're just not taught to think common sense. So it's not our fault. So don't be mad at us. Like, it's not our fault. You know, we're not thought about like the state of the body, right? We're not taught about the state of the body, right? So think about the body. What we want to do is we want to compartmentalize everything. What drives me crazy about veterinary medicine right now is we're following human medicine. Like, there's something wrong with your kidneys, you go see a urologist. There's something wrong with your heart, you go see a cardiologist. None of them talk. What if you got 6 things wrong? You might not think about what you're eating, right? And so nobody's doing that. You go see a gastroenterologist, nobody asks you what you're eating. It's like mind-boggling. So that's what's happening in our industry is it's all getting compartmentalized. So you have kidney disease, then you're getting this kidney diet, but then you're looking at the ingredients and you're like, corn, wheat, flavor, some stuff I don't think, some feathers, right? And you're like, okay, so you have a sick body. Your body is in a state of crisis, right? And this is what we're going to feed your body in a state of crisis. That's the same if you go to the human hospitals. Your body is in a state of crisis. What is your nutritionist putting on your plate? Jell-O, right? Like a roll with some margarine. So it's not our fault, you know. Because unless you look outside that box, this box is all you know, right? So, but there is another way. We've actually, and so what we're starting to do in our office. That's what is in their minds. So you're doing very good. I'm very proud of you. Do you want to take the dogs for a walk? Just like you go up and down and walk. You what? Yeah. You have to go together. You're okay. We'll wrap it up here. What's I talking about? Yeah, so what we're doing in our office is we actually are doing clinical trials, like proving what we do works. Because unlike the grain-free thing, I am not about to just come blab in my mouth and not have some research going on. And that's, in my mind, what happened. Just blabbing in the mouth. So we have data on a kidney disease where we reverse kidney disease. They say it can't be done. It's done 19 out of 20 times in my office. Reverse kidney disease. My classmates are like, you sound crazy right now. And they'll say to me, if I didn't know you, I would think you're crazy, but I know you, so I know you're not full of it. And so I'm starting to get an audience of veterinarians who are listening and are sick and tired of having crappy results. Because it